So, happy Friday or Saturday, maybe, if you're from some of our Asian countries. Today, I'd like to chat about a couple kind of easy breezy things where we can kind of all just chill a little bit after a long week of work and bring out the popcorn and the Coke Zero and just kind of ruminate over some easy, fun things. And so those two things are how I'd use AI today, or how I'd use AI if I created Nodeka today or a video game today. And then after we get done with that, onto movies and stuff, just for fun. And we'll probably meander off into La La Land, but there's a couple that I want to talk about. None of which I haven't seen any of these, but I want to just share thoughts that I have on like the genre or the the genre and maybe like the IP, and do we really need the 1000th Superman movie? What's right about Superman? What's wrong about Superman? My thoughts about this. Super excited about this, and so on and so forth. So first, let's get into AI. As I was mentioning, or I've mentioned, I think many times, using AI for code generation to try to basically help, hey T, to basically try to help you write production quality code might not be the best thing to do. That's my view. But it's not to say that AI itself doesn't have a number of other places you could use it for software development, in particular for game development. So if I were creating a video game from scratch today, like Nodeka, this is kind of how I think I might use AI. And we can demonstrate this actually by taking a quick gander at our thumbnail generator, because I like showing if I can rather than telling. So let's try to show and see what all of you can glean from some of these pictures, maybe without me even saying a word about what my intentionality is. Oh, and for those of you wondering what I'm listening to, on my tried and true Dream Clinic, just because it's so good. I was actually just listening to one of the new F1. Oh, that should be on the list. F1 songs from the Apple movie that just came out, I think. And it was good, but not as good as Dream Clinic, at least in my mind. Okay, so back to AI for video games. I'm going to maybe not say words and instead just show pictures. And you can decide what you think maybe I'm using the AI for. And keep in mind, all of these images were created by my little AI thing. Yeah, I like this one. All right. Next category. what I did here is I asked it to generate something, and I asked for 8 of these images, hoping that there would be kind of like 8 different-ish. But as you can see, it didn't quite pull that off. So I'm figuring out the AI and its behavior kind of in real time, and then realizing it has this weakness. So then I kind of changed the parameters. Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%. Okay, so this is our first monster, boss, something. This is feeling very Elden Ring-ish. And I didn't even include Elden Ring in the prompt or anything, or the meta prompt. I'll tell you after we look at these what some of the prompts were. But let's keep looking. There's something kind of eerie and cool about this guy in my mind, in that he's huge, right? And he seems to have, they seem to like the idea of him having these bandages or it being like a spear harpoon thing. But there's something super interesting in my mind about him being super powerful, having this weapon, but then also being chained to something. It feels like it's leveling the playing field in my mind a little bit. Like super unfair, but oh, he's tied down? Well, that could make it more interesting. Limits his range. He might get hung up and he might take damage himself if you trick him into running real fast. It's just interesting. Next guy. He's definitely following the chain thing. Keep in mind, I didn't say anything about chains. And we can see the scale of like our hero. That's cool. Some more of this. We have another guy. This guy is... Yeah. Whoa. He's got some stuff. This one, this set of ones, not the, I like this art maybe a little bit more, but this set of ones right here, this tree guy, and this well, there's something very cool in my mind about this. So let me share with you what I said now. Is I asked it to generate a unique monster that we'd have in our video game, but to also make sure that monster has a deep backstory that's integrated into the image. And the purpose of this is that if I were creating Nodeka again, I would write all the code. Says we've seen what they can do, at least for the main system. I might have them write the code for the item generator or monster generator, all that stuff that's like doesn't require the same level of fidelity, but it's not working on like the main engine or the stuff that matters. But the purpose of this image generation for these guys was not to help me figure out the stats of the monsters. It's to give me inspiration on ideas that I can then look at and then build an entire story around and integrate into the game. And so this is part of the reason why I like this guy so much. Like, think about this. We've got this tree king or queen, but in this case, I think he's... Anyway, maybe let's sidestep that issue. But we got this tree entity, and let's say that there are a whole bunch of minions of tree people out here. But the tree entity guy, he's here to protect the well. Why? Because trees survive off of water. They need it. It's their nutrients, right? It's like the sun, essentially, or some kind of solar energy, I guess, and water. So it would make sense that he would protect the well. And then maybe the story is that this guy's nearly invincible, but the well isn't. The well can be destroyed. And so in order to beat this guy and his crew, you have to actually attack the things that are not attacking you, which is the well. And at first you don't quite understand. Like maybe when you start taking on the minions, you fight the minions and you beat them, and then they all come back to life. And it's like, okay, why they keep coming back to life? I can't like clear this area. Well, this is maybe their regeneration pool, or there's a specific name for this, but this is the monster generator essentially. And so you take this out. So I quite like this image, and I think the AI did a super good job. Gave me a monster and gave me the backstory. And now all I need to do is just sort of figure out how to piece this together. Pretty cool. Let's keep going. We're nowhere near to being done. Okay, next monster guy. This is kind of cool. There's some other things floating around here. So maybe there's some soul stuff. Similar-ish to the last guy, even though this is a new batch, I believe. Okay, now we've moved out of the monsters, although that, in my mind, we're just scratching the surface of monsters. We'll go back. Now we're into something different. Okay. Well, let's keep going. What's going on here? What was I asking for in this set? This looks pretty ominous. Yeah, I know, right? The runes. I like the yeah, it's just some pretty cool, like there's all this like runic kind of stuff floating around here. It's really interesting. Just strange things are sort of happening. These guys seem like they are powerful, but they seem pretty sad. It's almost like they're cursed or something by this item that they got. That might have been a little bit of hinting at the prompt. Not exactly, but let's keep going. This looks like a bad item. This is the ID the item before you put it on, guys. If you're out of identification scrolls, don't do it. Don't do it. You wait until you get back to town and you find the shopkeeper and you ID that first. Because there are cursed items out there. You do not want to be this guy. All right. I don't know if he's going to make it to the voyage back home. That it's hard to say. All right, moving forward. I don't know what happened here, but the AI decided things are going to like level up. Yeah. Taylor says, with great power comes a cursed object? Question mark. Seems that way. seems that way. So now we got this guy, and these were pretty cool, but it suddenly feels like the AI just leveled up some stuff. And keep in mind, I was just pressing the button. So it came up with the meta prompt, and I'm just pressing. I'm not changing anything. I think that's somewhat interesting. I like this guy more than I like this guy. I think this guy looks like he's a good guy, but he's had some hard times. And so your guess is as good as any in terms of, is he going to do what's good, or is he going to just do what's mostly good? And there might be some bad fallout from the good stuff. I don't know, but he looks like he's that guy to me. It's kind of like Wolverine or Batman or something. Like, definitely feel if you don't get on the wrong side of them, you're probably okay. But don't even do something minor like shoplift, because this guy might go a little too far. Okay. All right. The AI is really starting to pull on my heartstrings. There's something now we're getting off-centered. We've got this relatively powerful guy, but he's looking down, which I think creates a ton of nuance and curiosity. Also, his armor is just, in my mind, like leveled up. This is like, it's got cool general design and stuff, but it seems to be infused with some magic or something, which might be good, might be bad. Yeah, like this feels like this is a story that is heartbreaking, but very powerful. Like, for example, it might be that the story here is this individual is going to survive, but everybody in his inner circle is not, which is maybe why he's looking down. So he's survived, he's standing up, and he looks a little bit ragged, but at what cost? So much going on here. Similar. I really like I think the AI really leveled itself up with this batch. Again, no change in the prompt. This is the beauty of stochastic AI. When you want stochasticity, stochastic AI is amazing. It's amazing. And there are definitely times where you want it, like this. We want variety. We want things to be different. We do not want determinism here. It's fantastic. Just use it the right way, guys. Okay, more of this. And then I think this is our last guy. So this is like kind of a set, I think. It's hard to say which one's my favorite. I think maybe this one. I like this guy quite a bit. What I might do, too, is I might just upload these images in a zip or something and drop it on the GitHub page. By the way, I think there's 3 versions now. I relabeled the HTML file, so it's like 0, 1, and 2. And by the way, I know how Git works, and I know that I could just have one file and keep updating it. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make it very easy to see the big jumps between what I consider notable version changes with the with our thumbnail generator. And so that's why I'm having the different versions, just to be clear. And there's a couple other reasons. Okay, we're on to some more. This is a next batch. This guy's okay, but it feels, and I don't know how you guys feel, but let me talk about nuance and subtlety. I feel like this is nuanced and subtle, and it creates in my mind a desire to understand what's going on here. Like it feels like there are layers of complexity with this that I like. I like that like these things are uneven. I like that they show up sometimes and other times they don't. I like that it's a bit of a mystery what this is, and that his armor is somewhat broken. His cape is tattered, which probably says he's gotten a lot of. He's been in a lot of battles, and like all this ruined stuff around, and it's overcast and it's raining or something. It just feels gritty and real and very nuanced. Now, this guy, this feels very, it feels more formulaic to me. And let me try to tease out part of the formulaicness. So it feels like there's perfect symmetry on this guy on both sides. You have perfect symmetry here, you have perfect symmetry here, here and here. And I think like perfect symmetry is oftentimes pretty boring. It seems like you have perfect symmetry with his eyes, like they're doing this thing, but it's perfectly reflected on both sides. I don't know, that feels boring. And then same with these dots. These dots seem to be nearly symmetric on both sides. The armor is perfectly symmetric. Like, I mean, he's a little beat down, but a little bit, but it feels too formulaic for me, for my taste. And because of that formulaicness, it feels artificial. It feels like it's something somebody created for us to fight. Whereas this guy, it feels like there's a human element to this. It feels like in this photo, I want to understand the backstory. I want to know why. Why is he sad? Why is he beaten down? Is he the hero? Did anybody else survive? Right? Like what happened to this guy? I want to know his story. I don't feel like this guy has a story. I feel like this guy was just created in a lab or something, and he was just pushed out of a conveyor belt, and I'll fight him just to get through him, but I don't really care. Similar-ish with this guy. Again, notice the near perfect symmetry. I don't know. I think that's like a little boring. Oh my gosh, this is so Superman formulaic. Like, what? How can I be afraid of a guy that has like a butterfly tattooed to his chest? Like, I'm not afraid of this guy. I feel like he's gonna sit down and tell me about like rom-coms or something. Like, I don't know. And I don't think that he did anything to these guys. I think he walked through after all these people were already taken care of. More. Okay, we're on to the next batch. All right, now we have a little bit of the human element. It seems like people are still pretty sad. It does feel like we're getting a little more off center, I think. Even the posture of this knight feels too. Yeah. 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 Uh, I I agree, T. So this one I think is a little more interesting. And yeah, this is a different batch. So there's a few elements that I like about these two guys that are different that I want to just quickly talk about. And again, it's the nuance of it. So the first thing that's nuanced and super cool about this guy is he's holding the sword with his left hand. That's unusual. Most people are right-handed. This is a very subtle nuance that I think is very interesting. And I'm already engaged by this. It's a very cool thing. And notice that it's like the full sword. It's not like a dagger here and a full sword over here. Usually the dagger is the thing that, or the shield goes on in the offhand, and the main hand is like your power weapon. So I think they're demonstrating, whether it's intentional or not, that he's a lefty and there's some nuance here. This guy I like for a slightly different reason. I mean, there's a number of reasons, but check this out. So I like that he's a lefty, and they're both kind of sad. We go to this guy. This guy's a righty, which is a little bit boring, but notice there's something really tiny that's different about these two that I think almost makes it like it's potentially two different stories that are their backstory. This guy is kind of sad, but you can see the castle it appears like it's mostly together. This guy's thing looks like it's destroyed. And notice that he's sort of turned away from it. So notice it's very subtle. This guy's kind of looking straight down. This guy's looking kind of down and away from it. It's a very subtle thing here. Now, what this says to me is he's not going there. This is done. Or he's thinking about this thing that he's looking at that maybe caused this. Like there's something very peculiar about, there's this massive piece of destruction in the background and he's looking away from it. Like, why? I like that question. And I like that stance and that positioning. This one feels a little bit more predictable. Seems like he's sad, and he's definitely not looking at it, but it seems like maybe he's heading that way. Anyway, very minor detail on these two. And it looks like this was like in a similar vein. This guy's also, I think, has another extra level of detail. That's pretty cool. I don't think either of these guys have it. Is he has some sort of, whether intentional or not, it's not clear, but he has this sort of ethereal or ethereal, like wispy thing happening here. And that could be magic. It could be like that the AI just messed up. And again, that's great, right? We want that for what we're doing here because we want stochasticity. We want things to be uncertain because this is going to be largely subjective, what we're doing here. So I think that's a pretty interesting element. All right, let's keep going. Now, we're no longer, I think, as you might be able to tell, it's kind of shifted a little bit. But let's go a little further so we can see how it's shifted. Okay, this batch, I think it's kind of hard to tell exactly what I was trying to do, but this next batch, I think, may become more clear. I think this is maybe the thumbnail I used for this stream, one of these. And as Taylor was saying, yeah, we've got Runic over here. I can actually read, or I could read Runic. This looks like an F, an R. I don't know what that is. That's an I. I think maybe that's a K. That's a B. I'm not sure. I mean, at least the Runic that I learned, it was from like Ultima 3. I think Ultima 3 came with a Runic translation. Whether or not that's accurate, I don't know. But as a kid, I learned it, and then I could do all the translation in the game. Maybe it was Ultima 4. Anyway, video game nerd. Now, this is not Runic. This is something else. I mean, like that R looks like it. This one looks like it. I can't remember if this is like a P or a B. There's some that don't look like their English counterpart. But again, maybe we'll look up the Runic. What the heck? Let's meander a little bit. Runic alphabet according to Ultima 4. Here we go. Here we go. All right, cool. What is this? It's a little bright. Yeah, here. Oh, maybe it was Ultima 5. I don't. My water just turned into Oh. You're saying something interesting over there, T, but I'm trying to translate from English to Runic over here, and I feel like you're also speaking two languages. So maybe you can explain. You can explain what's going on. All right. So as we were just looking at this, so so the thing that looks like an F is an A. B, C, D. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So the R looks like the R, S and T kind of look the same. Same with U's upside down, V's upside down. The H, yeah, is quite different. I's close. K is a little close. It just misses this. L's like upside down. M's very close. Just trying to avoid the confusion of thinking the M is this and then the N would look like this and it not being that. Yeah. So anyway, you can see that. So this is sort of what the Runic that I learned anyway. You're reading the runes turned my, okay. I get it now. I get it. Okay. Thank you, T. It all makes sense. So now if we go back to this guy, we look at this, we can be like, oh yeah, this kind of, so now you can see what I was saying. This kind of looks like Runic to me, mostly. But this over here, I mean, there's some, like the R, and what would we say? This is an H or something, and that's an I. But some of these other ones, I don't quite understand. Anyway, regardless, I think that's super cool, personally. Continuing, more stuff that like is like a cross between Runic and something else. And by the way, I think that that's also supremely cool for creative ideation. As I was mentioning before, like creative ideation, even for the vibe coding things, the creative ideation piece, I think is just can be very helpful for inspiration and to kind of just go down a rabbit hole. And you don't have to take the actual thing it produces. It's more the springboarding that it produces as inspiration and ideas for you. That's kind of the way that I think about it. Because truthfully, this has given me so many ideas. Now, once I see this, I can, start to deliberate on what we're building here. I also kind of like that this guy's walking into this and someone's there to meet him, either friendly or not friendly. It's not entirely clear to me. It's something. Okay. And more, yeah, I don't totally love this. Yeah. And the physics on this feel very strange. And this is kind of funny. So these ones I like quite a bit. Again, didn't change the prompt, at least I don't think. And then going from that to this. So this one's maybe not so bad, but check this out. This one, what's going on with this spear? Like, did the spear stab him? Or is it like he just dropped it, or he's throwing it? He's racing the spear. It's kind of fun. I think that's the beauty of the AI. As long as you don't take it like super seriously, as in it has to be perfect, I think that you can have a lot of fun with this. All right. So the purpose of all this is very high level. What I was trying to get at the heart of is using AI for things that are very subjective and more related to human elements and nuance and stochasticity. Never trust a magic spear. That's right. Maybe the magic spear decided that he just wasn't feeding it enough and it's gone bad. There's actually a show. What was this show? Is that Amazon one? It's the Amazon. It's quite good. I mean, it's a little foul. What is this? So the Amazon. It's like Amazon D&D. This might get us there. Here we go. It's Vox Machina. It's Vox Machina. All right. If you haven't seen Vox Machina, you should check it out. I think it's pretty cool. Now keep in mind, it's raunchy. You know, it's sort of like the fraternity kind of jokes and stuff. I'm not a huge fan of that, but overall I really like the higher order bits of this, so I kind of tolerate some of the, I don't know, like the lowbrow humor. I mean, it's not my kind of humor. I'm more, what's my kind of humor? My kind of humor is more like the Alberta lady who's talking about coding and like that Instagram video that we showed where it's just kind of deadpan and yeah, very cerebral, not like burping and farting and that kind of stuff. But whatever, like I'm not offended by it. I just think it's like silly. But if you don't like that kind of humor, then you're probably not going to like that because it does that quite a bit. However, what's really interesting, I think, about this show is it's deep. I mean, there is a lot of depth here. There is a lot of like seriousness. It has humor, which is, you know, is it the best? I don't know. But the actual, man, somebody needs to call Rotten Tomatoes too and also let them know. Dark mode, guys, it's the future. It's actually not in the future. It's like now. And so level up, Rotten Tomatoes. And on top of that, I visit you enough. You probably know me well enough to know I'm never going to watch this movie, guys. Freakier Friday? Okay, I know a little bit of the history of this. Does this really look Rotten Tomatoes and Google and Disney? I just looked up the legend of Vox Machina, and this is the ad. These two things don't match, okay? They're not even close. All right, I guess I can. If I'm being fair, okay, I know a little bit about the Freaky Friday and stuff, and so there is this a bit of a switcheroo magic type of thing, and this is magic. Okay, so I take it back. It's not as egregious, but that's definitely not the kind of thing that I'd be watching. I might be watching something like this. Like this might be a good thing to recommend as the ad. That's actually a far more reasonable thing to recommend. Like, yeah, I want fast internet. Anyway, this is another one of the shows that I haven't watched, and I'm glad to see that these numbers are pretty good. Also, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I don't really look at the critic score at all anymore. I kind of just don't believe them. I've seen so many movies that they will either bomb or they'll praise, and then I see the movie and I totally disagree. I do not agree with them, like not even remotely. They are completely off. So they give it like a 10% and the audience is giving an 80%. I'm with the audience. Or they give it 100% and the audience gives it like 50%. I'm with the audience at the 50%. So basically what I do now is I just ignore this and I just look at this. So I like that 80% of the audience likes this. That's cool. Also, another show that I've been dabbling with just a little bit is this one. And yeah, I think that this is another fun one. I'm a little bit behind on all these just because, work and stuff. Anyway, we're meandering a little bit too much, but we started with Vox Machina. And we were doing that because we were talking about... what were we talking about? I think we were talking about these. Oh yeah, we were talking about the the spear. The spear. So in Vox Machina, there might be a weapon that decides that if you don't take care of it, it's going to take care of you. I'll leave you to the show to find out about all the rest. All right. So now going back to these images, what I was asking for is sort of in this order. First, create a unique world and show me that world as sort of a high-level layout. That was the first prompt. And the truth is that it came up with this prompt on its own because I have the system now set up to where on reboot, every time I restart it, it then automatically generates a new type of prompt that it is fully unconstrained to come up with. Just you figure something out and just make it kind of family friendly, and it does. Then the next group is create me unique monsters that have deep backstories that I can see in the image to get a sense of. So that's what the second group was. Now, why is this valuable? Well, if you're creating your own video game, Nodeka has, I want to say it has thousands of unique monster templates in it. Yeah, probably on the order of thousands. What I mean about a unique monster template is this would be one, and these guys might be all part of that one. This would be one. And so now you have two unique monster templates, and now we need several thousand more. So you can imagine that if you're going to build a game that has a lot of richness, you may start to run out of ideas, that it's a lot of stuff to figure out. So if you can use the AI to give you inspiration, and then in your head you can be like, oh yeah, we have a monster that's like this, but what if we changed it a little bit and did this? Oh, that would totally work, and so on and so forth. So I would use it this way. And keep in mind, at first in Nodeka, I was the one that was sort of like creating all the monsters and the areas and the items and the world map. I mean, that changed as Nodeka got bigger, that the staff started to handle a lot of those details. But at first, it was just a lot of heavy lifting for me doing it. And so having something like this to help would be great. The next batch was a batch of items that the players can use. And so it's actually, it took what I said pretty accurately. This is an item and the player can use it, I think. Like, here's the player and they're using it. What I actually meant was it's a unique item that the player can use and they'll wear. So it's like part of their equipment. It's their gear. So then I changed it so it would say unique piece of equipment that then they can wear and try to create like a rich backstory. So that's where this came from. So I think the item is this crown. And what it's trying to do is create like, okay, so you have this powerful crown and like maybe it's good, maybe it's not so good. There's going to be side effects if you put this on. Okay, I like that. I think that's pretty cool. So it did this batch. Then I think it creates this gauntlet shoulder thing as another example. Again, keep in mind, I didn't say that these had to be cursed or evil. I just said create a unique item that the players can use and wear, and then give me some interesting backstory in the image. So that's what basically all of these are. And it was just giving me these items related to smaller things. So then I said, have it be the part of their armor. And I didn't say their entire armor set, just to be clear. I just said have it be part of their armor. And then it started coming up with this. So it's like, okay, I'm going to give you the full armor set. In Nodeka, for example, this would be an entire set of armor. So you have the helmet, you'd have these shoulder things, you'd have these armbands, you'd have these gauntlets, then you'd have this belt, you'd have this chest plate, you'd have things for your legs, you'd have things for your calves, you'd have your boots, and then you'd have 2 weapons. That's approximately, and then there's a space for amulet, and then I think 5 rings, something like that. Light source is in there as well. There's, yeah, and then there's like a cape. So this is not just a single piece of armor. This is like a full armor set, which is cool. That's great. I didn't ask for a full armor set, but you know the AIs don't always listen to you, and I can work with this. It's great. And similarly, same thing here. Same thing, and it's similar with this. This is also just the armor, and this time it looks like in some of the cases it got rid of the weapons. Not this case, I guess. This one. And this does feel like it's an entire armor set that's matching. So this is like an armor set where this could also be, I think, considered an armor set, but you could imagine how these could be pieced together. They aren't necessarily all the same. For example, right here you have like these leather buckles to kind of strap on the gauntlets, but you don't really have that for these shoulder pieces. So there's some sort of inconsistencies, which is cool. I think it actually makes the image a little bit richer, but it's makes it feel like it maybe is not a set, right? Whereas this feels like this is a set, or at least this is a set. Maybe these knee pad thingamabobs and these for your ankles and shins, maybe these are not part of it because they don't seem to have like the orange aura, but they've got something. Okay. And then we continue going. And again, this is more armor stuff. And I don't know, somehow I think we went from armor and now they're villains or something. Like, again, AI is going to do its AI thing. And it's kind of cool. You just need to know going in, well, it may give us some strange stuff. We can still work with this. But I wasn't asking for like bad guys that are killing people. I was actually just asking for armor that they can wear. Again, continuing on, this is all the same story. Now, when we get to this changes. Now what I'm asking for are unique areas in the world that the player can go travel to and fight monsters and do side quests. That's what the prompt was for this. And then give me a little bit of the backstory in the area. And so you can notice that it's slightly different, right? These guys are still more of the armor thing, and I guess it got this. But now this guy's like traveling here. It seems to be intentional, and he's all geared up, like he's ready to go do whatever it is he's gonna do, which is cool. And then it kind of continues. Looks like he's got like a lantern canteen thing. Maybe it's a canteen lantern. That's a cool twist. And he's exploring some space. Same thing here. It looks like there's like the area and maybe a crypt over here. Cool stuff going on. He's clearly there. Like he's and you can tell too, the AI is kind of getting it here because these guys aren't as beaten down. Like they look like they're ready to go on an adventure, as opposed to you were on an adventure and I don't know if you won. You were out there. You went and explored that area and somehow you made it, but you lost your whole party in the process. Like I don't, something like that. All right. So more exploration of areas, and that's where we get to this space. We finally get to what I think of like cool areas. This is like an Ico area from the game Ico, if you guys know about this game. Like it has this feel. Let's see if I can find a photo that gives you the sense. I guess it's been a while since I played this. It's very sort of like Elden Ringish in the got it. Wow. We've got a lot of work to do, guys, to get all these what is going on in the world of advertisement these days? Like, are you guys seeing what I'm seeing? Look at this. Who would ever go to this? Who would ever go to this page? And who do the people that are running this actually think that people will tolerate this? Okay, let's just count the ads versus the actual content. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There appear to be 6 ads on this that are taking up probably 50% or more. Oh, there's 7, right? It was on there. Oops, there's switch 2. Where's the actual content? Oh, here it is. Here's a sentence for it. Okay. Here's a picture. Hard to know that this is actual real content versus an ad because there's so many pictures next to it. And then there's look at this. You get, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You get 8. You get 8 full lines of content. Oh, hold on. Check this out. Another ad just popped up. So you don't even do anything. You just sit here and more ads are going to come in. So it's not even staying fixed. If we sat here long enough, we'd probably get who knows how many ads. This is wacky. And the part that I think maybe is the strangest is that who thinks that this is reasonable? Like, if I can, oh my gosh, like if I can, I will try to never visit this page again for the rest of my life, because these ads are just so crazy. And I think there's a way to show ads where you are having a small amount of ads, but it's still principally content. That there's this balance of mostly it's the content that you're there for, and then there's a little bit here and there. Like, for example, I don't know if you guys are on YouTube Premium or not, but if you're not on YouTube Premium, you might be getting like there might be like a little advertising logo or something on the bottom of your screen. And then once in a while, you might be getting like a 30-second advert, maybe. I have no idea. I've tried to fiddle with the settings to make it so it's just like the little logo in the bottom, but I probably didn't get it quite right. Holler at me, actually, especially in the streams, if you see like a 30-second ad interrupt us, and I'll try to fix that. But if you see the little logo, that's me doing that on purpose, because I don't think it's like too distracting. As long as it's not changing every 7 seconds. Anyway, so yeah, here's an example of ICO and what I mean about how it has this sort of feel to it that things are large. It has this largeness feel when you're playing it, that you're kind of like this tiny little speck, and wish that there was a better... Yeah, here we go. Maybe this is a little bit more. See, like, let's take the contrast between this site and the other site we just looked at. This site I can tolerate. I've got an ad over here. I'm already YouTube Premium, so if you knew your audience, you'd probably know not to show that to me. So we clearly haven't like reached personalized ads yet, or maybe we have and somebody just dropped the ball. But one ad, and maybe, yeah, look, this isn't even an ad. Oh my gosh, this is actually the score. This is great. What is this though? 2 of the most fascinating PS2 games return in a good justification HD. Okay. All right, super. This is actually all about the game. This is crazy. Look, here's Death Stranding 2. This is, so yeah, like here's what I do when I find a site that, yeah, like I'm going to come back to this one. So you've got one ad up here. That's fine. I can kind of like scroll past this, and then this one stays here. I can tolerate that. This is, I think, a far better thing. Okay, maybe there's another one, but sometimes you can like actually close these, and yeah, maybe it'll pop back up. All right, maybe it's getting out of control. I'm doing my best to try to foster goodwill here, guys. Digital trends, I'm trying to fight for you, and you're working against me. Okay, anyway, this is what ICO kind of at least feels like to me. Is it just feels like it's immersive, it's huge. It feels very much like Elden Ring, and even maybe like Cyberpunk. Although Cyberpunk, I think, can feel very tight and compressed based on certain areas. Okay, so we were back over here and we were just talking about this. This was related to areas. So give me area suggestions and give me a backstory in them. Like, that's a cool backstory. Like, I would lean into this and be like, okay, so somewhere in this area, there's like this dragon statue. And what if the dragon statue could come to life? If you had like 5 amulets or something, or some prime number of amulets, because again, prime, cool. Again, off center. And 2 is a prime, It's the only even prime. But so if you want just 2 gems to activate our dragon guy, okay. Again, your game, you do what you want, but I was thinking I might do 11. 11 feels like a really strange, kind of unusual number. 3 feels too obvious in my mind for gems to activate this guy. 3, 5, 7, and 9 is not a prime. Yeah, so 3, 5, 7. I mean, 7 maybe, but it's just so overused. Whereas 11, I feel, is not hit that much. And what we're trying to do is break the redundancy. We're trying to break the stereotype of what the expectation is, so it engages people more. We don't want something it's always, oh wow, look, it's another group of 4 mobs. Oh, look at that. And they have 1 leader. Like, wouldn't it be cool if once in a while you saw a mob group that had maybe 11 mobs, or let's pick some random number. Let's say 8. Okay. Even. But then there's 2 leaders. And when you show up, the 2 leaders are fighting each other. And one of them is going to win. And then what's left is now there's 7 mobs. And now they're going to come for you. But if you would have attacked them while they were fighting each other, you would have had the advantage. But you didn't. And so that's your bad. But now you know next time. And then when you come in next time, it's not 7. It's like 13. And this time there are 3 leaders that are fighting it out. Plus one of them has a lieutenant. Like, there's just just a level of richness and strangeness that you can add that takes something that could be seen as really artificial and just typical, and you can just shift it slightly to the left or slightly to the right, and then it becomes something totally different. And I personally think that those make some of the most interesting movies, music, YouTube channels, video games, you name it. Anyway, that was basically what we were trying to do with this. Is I was trying to get inspiration on different ideas for this pretend game that kind of so Taylor's saying that kind of unpredictability makes it far more fun. Yeah, because you don't know what's exactly coming. Like, you have a sense that something's going to be coming for you, but in what degree and how hard and how powerful. And you want it to have, like, you don't want it to be something where the area that they ran before was like as easy as watching Sesame Street, and then that same area goes to like Nightmare on Elm Street. They're both streets, but one of them, it has Big Bird, and the other one has like Freddy Krueger that's going to just mow you down. So you don't necessarily want that much of a dichotomy where they're like so totally different that players are just like, everybody's getting smushed when it goes into Elm Street. But having a certain amount of variability each time the area repops or they revisit it or whatever, I think within constraints can make it far more interesting because of the unexpected nature. Like, you get a general sense of it, but then it has sort of this human element or this unknown element. And then on top of that, one of the things that I would do in Nodeka is I would have certain items that could be super powerful, and I would make the likelihood of the drop extremely low, super low, like 0.001% low. And then I would put it on a mob that is a cakewalk, like anybody could take out. But nobody knows that this mob has the item because it loads so rarely. Now, eventually the word gets out, and so then people know, and so they start farming that. And then you can move the item around to different mobs. And if you have the right kind of AI system, like the AI that Nodeka has, You can set it up where the mobs are communicating with each other to decide who's going to have the item, this pop, and then one of them gets it and the rest don't. And on top of that, the players don't know all this complexity behind the scenes. All they know is, oh, I targeted mob 2 and I got the item. So everybody target mob 2. And you do, and there's no drop. You and your clan or your group has run this area 1,000 times, and there's no more drops. Everybody loses faith that you actually knew what you're talking about. But then, just out of pure boredom, one of your clan members decided to run the area and wipe out all of them, and it found that it was actually mob 47 that had the item. And now your team is back, and it's like, okay, cool. So mob 2 or mob 47 has the item. Let's make sure that we take them out. And then sure enough, you do this 10,000 more times, and mob 2 and 47, they don't have the item. And then your team finally gets clued in and be like, wait a second, is this like a hot potato thing? Do we have to just take out the whole area? And maybe you do. And then on top of that, later on, you add some sort of gypsy mob. The gypsy mob you can go talk to, and this person will tell you exactly which mob has the item for this repop. For those people that are deeply paying attention and understand the whole interconnectedness of the world, they go talk to the gypsy first. These other people, they're just doing brute force. They run the area. This area has like 1,000 mobs. They're fighting everybody. You, smart player, go to the gypsy, figure out which mob has, you teleport in, you take out the one mob, you get the item, you bail out. And the other clan that's farming all the monsters, they don't even know that you're there and you're out. Which then works to your advantage really well because they think that they can still farm the item even though it's already been scooped. And they don't know about the gypsy, right? So like little things that you can do that can make things like a small amount of stochasticity, I think, in the actual mob's behaviors and the game's behavior can be super, super cool. And on top of that, the stochasticity from these things for inspiration, I think, can be extremely helpful. Now, on top of this, in Nodeka, what I would do, like if I was going to create this monster, the way Nodeka works is it has like a baseline for the monster, and you give it sort of these base stats. And then each time Nodeka loads in this monster, it applies some kind of fuzzy logic to it. It basically says, cool, these are your base stats. I'm going to change them. And then most of the time, the changes are within 25% positive or negative. So it's like a reasonable amount. You have a mob that has like 100,000 health. The most that it could have, more than that, would be like 125,000 health, right? Something of that nature, or 75,000 health. So it's within this parameter. However, in rare cases, like 1% of the case, it could 2x or 3x. So then you have the 100,000 health mob, and then just in these extremely rare cases, it jumps to 247,000 health. And now your players actually have to pay attention when they run the areas, or they could just get rocked because this guy wasn't a threat if you could one round him, but if he survives the one round, he's going to like toast people. Like, again, I'm just sort of making this up on the fly, but these are some of the things that I have done and did, maybe even continue to do for game-related stuff or just general product creation, because I think that they can add a lot of just interesting nuance to, especially to video games. Okay, so I think, yeah, we've discussed this topic pretty deeply. This is maybe the starting point of how I would use AI for a game if I was starting today. I might also ask it for help on UI related things, like how it might lay something out, but I wouldn't be asking it to do this part, at least not yet. And again, that's just me, because I have been coding for a while, and so I can look at this and say, well, I think you can make this better. I realize that your mileage may vary, and so this might be really helpful. But the problem that I see with this is if you follow this code, like this is no good. This is really like, this is so much a hodgepodge of just a bunch of things. Like, for example, minimally, it appears that some of these are buttons. The buttons should be all grouped together, perhaps, or grouped and then subgrouped. So buttons for the main screen, buttons for the subscreens, buttons, buttons, buttons. But it's all buttons. But you can see that it's not just all buttons. Like, what's this thing? Post-generation actions. That's not a button. What's this thing? This drop zone. That's not a button. So why is all this stuff together? Like, there should be something where it calls a function that says something like generate program buttons. And then inside of that function, it generates the program buttons. And everybody knows that when you call that function, it's going to generate the program buttons. And then other things like things related to keyboard presses, you put that in the initialize keyboard or something, right? Left, right, this kind of thing. And in in those cases, you call that something different. And then what happens is this huge thing right here, this 50 lines of code, 40 lines of code becomes like 3 lines of code. And I like that much more. And then you do similar things here. So you do you. I think if you want to use the vibe coders and AI systems to help you write code, if that's your path, I don't want to try to block that. If you feel that's the right way to go, just as someone that's been coding for a while, I think the unfortunate thing is there's a lot of bad habits that you can learn by using this code that you might not develop if you wrote it yourself. Because the problem that you might run into is, I think what happens is when you see code that's written or you see something that's done, people often, I think, they may take, it's easier to take the path of least resistance. It's just generally easier. Take the path of least resistance. And that would be just looking at the code as it is and then saying, cool, so this is how you code this stuff. And then now what you've learned is a bad habit that you're now using in perpetuity. And maybe you're becoming a senior engineer and now you're teaching other people, and the world's going to hell in a handbasket because of this type of thing, because a lot of other people are doing the same thing. Like, hopefully this maybe sheds a little light on why some of us that are really seasoned in coding have kind of this worry. Is it's not so much that we're worried for ourselves. I'm using AI code generation things like crazy. I'm just worried that this is going to maybe set a bad example and start to create all these bad habits. Like, I feel like it's the world advertising smoking cigarettes again. Like, by all means, if you smoke cigarettes, do your thing. I'm not trying to judge you. I'm just saying, like, when you do that, like in public with other people, there's like the secondhand smoke. And so other people are affected by it. And right now, people are promoting AI used like this, the same way we used to promote cigarettes. So then people feel entitled to do this, and other people feel that they're held hostage to allowing it. And so then all these other people are getting like secondhand smoke that are not even smokers. It's the same thing here. Is like, this can create a lot of secondhand smoke, secondhand code that's going to teach us bad things that younger folk that don't know better, like this is addictive, this could give you cancer, this could be bad. They don't know to not do that. Same thing here. They look at this and think, okay, cool. This is how you do this. I've learned. I know how to code. I've seen this before. And then we have a widespread level of idiocracy. And we're feeding all of our plants Gatorade, right? Like, I'm that's not the way to the future. That is the way of the dark ages. All right. I think that we've beaten this topic enough. And there's far more things that I would use AI for. I'd also use it in the mentor way, right? Like the mentor way is, I think, super great in that it's helping you in things that it's really good. The electrolytes, though. Wait, so why are you feeding all of the plants Gatorade? Electrolytes. Everybody needs electrolytes. Yeah, humans maybe. If you have not seen the movie Idiocracy, you should really do yourself a favor. Watch this movie, because once you see it, you may understand a lot of the inside jokes that Taylor and I have on this channel, and how a lot of it is in jest, but as they say, all jokes have some degree of truthfulness in them. Now, the question is, what degree of truthfulness do we have here? All right, but back on the topic of using AI to do things. So AI is helping me for ideation over here, and I'm using it in its brilliant stochasticity, and this is fantastic. Like, this is great. This is so many ideas. And check this out. All I have to do is just say, yeah, see here, create a unique area that a player can run for, oh, here, let's say this, fighting NPCs and doing quests, and make the area have a deep backstory that's integrating the image. Okay. Maybe in my meta, I'm getting clearly pretty lazy with my meta prompts. So let's take a look now. See if it does an even better thing. I would run this area for sure. And these guys look interestingly peaceful yet potentially dangerous, which is a really cool juxtaposition, I think. These guys are even freakier. Notice the subtle, there's a very, so these guys, like, I think are more like Marvel's Watchers kind of thing, if you're familiar with the Watcher. It feels a little bit like this guy. They're kind of chilling. I don't know if they're really going to mess you up. They probably could if you bothered them, but they're probably just going to sit in the background and leave you alone. I don't know that these guys are going to do that. And there's something really subtle in this that makes these guys a little bit more dangerous and curious to me. And it is their elongated arm. This guy has it. This guy might have it. This guy seems to have it. This guy over here might have it. This guy here definitely, I think, has it. This is a little freaky. This is bordering on sort of like a little of the Elden Ring evil boss kind of thing. But yeah, I think that if you're building your video game now, there's many ways that you can use AI to help you. And a lot of that, I think, would be around the resources of the game, not necessarily the code. But then when it comes to the code, I think using something like Mentor, mostly, so you write the majority of the code, Mentor comes in and it helps you figure out and fix all the things that you're not getting right. And then on top of that, what's nice about Mentor is it's trying very hard. I'm not sure that it always gets this right, but it's trying very hard to give you, it's trying very hard to sort of make you a better coder. It's not just trying to help you fix the stuff. Like in general, you shouldn't. Okay. No judgy. No judgy. Goju. No judgy. All right. Generally speaking, in conditionals, I prefer them to do checks on the state without mutating the state. I think that conditionals generally should only look at immutable operations in the condition. And what it appears to be based on these two functions that are called, that it's going to update the program state. In the conditional, but then it might not, right? That's the part that is so not great. There's so much hidden stuff here, right? The fact that these are ORs, the ordering here is critical. That if you get a single true, it's going to jump out and do this ret -1. Okay. And I think herein lies the problem is, well, I have to look at this code to see how I'd rewrite it, but I wouldn't do ret is -1. I would just return -1. But it's going to do some of this stuff here, I think, because it's sort of maybe losing a little track of what's going on with this transaction. There's just a lot of stuff maybe to fiddle with. But the key is that this is going to probably try to do this transaction update, which is going to, an update by definition is something that is mutating the state, right? Because updates are, you're changing something, you're updating it, which means it is a mutating operation. It's not a read. It's not doing transaction read state or something. Then the transaction commit, this is also a write operation because you're trying to commit the transaction state to like the global state. So both of these in sequence are doing mutating operations. What's tricky though is that if any of these this is really strange. So if any of these return true based on the OR here, so basically they return a value that is non-zero, then it should jump to here if I'm doing my logic right. So it's not a transaction. Let's say that's true. You bail and exit here. So this returns a value that is essentially anything that is non-zero, you go to here. And that probably works because 0 is the success case for this. This is my speculation. 0 is the success return value, and non-zero gives you the error code for the different types of errors that it has. All right. And then the last thing is the same here, is now it tries to do this. And notice it's going to do this serially. It's going to do this one, and then this one, and then this one. because it's relying on this order of things. Check transaction first, then do the transaction update, then do the transaction commit. And this will work because the OR operator here, that is logical OR, has the same precedence as the logical OR here, so you read it left to right. But it doesn't have to be this way. If you introduce additional operators that are Boolean operators that have different precedence orders, you could change the execution order of this to where this executes first and then this executes. And it can be really hard to see this inside of a control expression, which is why you don't do this in a freaking control expression. You just don't do it. You don't do it. You do it as a Boolean. You create a bool and say, do something like this. Now, these returns are super important because at each failure point, you need to exit because you're saying, I can't do the next thing. So if there is no transaction, I can't perform this. I need to exit out of this. Then if you don't get this failed transaction, like transaction actually exists. Oh, and by the way, that is that? Yeah, this is what this is doing here. There we go. Okay. So this is our actual code. All right. So the first thing is we get the transaction. If there is no transaction, we exit. Then we try to update the transaction. If there was an error in this, meaning that if the update, so you check on no error because there's many types of errors. So you can't check on, did it fail because of this. No. Just check to see if it's not equal to no error, then you know it has an error, and then you exit. And maybe you don't return -1 here. You just do this. You return the updated error. And this actually can be an int, I guess. Probably an int const, just to make it a little bit better. And then this is probably the same thing. This is probably an int const. Okay, so if this is not a no error, then that failed, which means you can't go to this next one. But notice that this actually reads now, so people understand that it is a serial execution of things where one happens after the other, and they must. So if someone comes in and does this, and you're code reviewing it, you can say, Taylor, why are you committing the transaction before you are updating the transaction? Because this will happen, and then this will happen. And then Taylor can say, oh, whoops, I messed that up. My bad. Let me fix this. All right? But now, if you have an if statement that is, I'm just going to call this TX. That's what us in the transactional memory and like database community tend to call it ref transaction update, and we're going to do something there, or ref transaction commit, we're going to do something there. All right. Now, because this is a control expression, it has the appearance that all you need to do is just make sure that all of these things are true or false or whatever. And the order has, there is no required ordering of these things. And so I could write this way, or I could write this way, or another way. Because all I'm doing really, right, is all I'm doing is just checking to make sure that all of these are false. As long as they're all false, it's all that matters, right? No, that's not what they're doing. What they're doing is actually mutating operations that are going to change the program state, and they're requiring a serial order be observed. But you generally just, this is a really not great idea to do in control expressions, because people don't necessarily know. And why? Like, why are you making this overly complicated? You should strive for simplicity in code. Simplicity in code, in my view, is significantly harder to achieve than code that is complicated. It's so much harder to write code that is extremely clear, like this, that does exactly the right thing, because you really have to sit down and think about it. I'd much rather make updates with your refactored approach. Yeah, me too. And a big part of that is it's just this idea that it like makes sense. You can even see the cohesion in the ideas. Like if you group it like this, see the pattern? There's a pattern. And it's super clear. People are really good at this whole pattern matching. Also, it's well understood that these are executing in general on von Neumann machines, which are essentially machines that are going to go in a serial order. It's not always the case. I mean, I understand asynchrony and GPUs and stuff can change this, but on typical traditional CPU execution, you know, it's sort of like in that von Neumann space. Turing tape kind of space, one after another, and you have a memory hierarchy and all this stuff. So here's AI, and maybe this is actually reinforcing the point that I'm trying to make. By the way, I think that this might be too advanced for Mentor. Let's see. Let's see if Mentor can get close to this. I actually have no idea. You can even tell that we may have no idea because it looks like no one has seen this before or looked at this except for me right now. For example, if I go do this, you'll see, and now if I go back. So we're looking at this maybe for the first time. Let's see what we get. It's better, but it still embeds all three of these. And with the or, it's still, in my mind, this still is not good enough. I want to be clear. I think this is an improvement over the original because it's pulling these out and making it like more clear exactly what it's doing, and that you're checking on whether the update failed or the commit failed, which goes back to what I was saying over here is like it's an update error, it's a commit error, right? So good on Mentor for figuring that out. And that's really what you're checking. Is transaction invalid? Is there an update failure? Is there a commit failure? That's actually like pretty good names. And it makes it clear that you're checking on the negative space. You're checking not on the good space, that it passed, but you're checking on did it fail? Because the true on that failure is what makes this work because of the ORs. If you checked on the negative space, this would not work, right? You have to check on the negative. Sorry. Yeah, if you checked on the positive space, this would not work. You have to check on the negative space. So the positive space would be like, is the transaction valid? It is. Okay. Or, no, don't need to or it. It's true already. Go to the next thing. Well, the next thing is to error out, right? And what you really want is you want a transaction that's valid, that you can then do an update on, that you can then do a commit on, which is what my code is attempting to do, which is basically saying, check this, and if you don't have a valid transaction, exit. Therefore, to get here, you have to have a valid transaction, because if you were invalid, you would have exited. Now, when you get to this line of code, the only executions are executions where the transaction is valid. Therefore, you know that this operation is going to it's going to at least be called with a transaction that exists. It has to, because it has to get through this. It's so great. And then you can't possibly break it, like over here, or potentially even over here. Like, for example, someone can still move this up, and you accidentally check, is transaction invalid last, and you already have crashed the system because you did that first, right? And then similarly, the same thing happens here, is that by the time you get to this line of code, it's saying that, okay, you have a valid transaction. The transaction was updated correctly. You've got all that stuff. Okay, now the third step, which is required to be done last, because you can't commit the transaction before you do an update, and you can't do the update before the transaction is known to be valid. Then, if all that stuff is good, now you can try to commit the transaction and see if the commit worked. Oh, I think that this was supposed to return something like this. Cool. So this code I think is still better, but this is a step in the right direction. Let's see if Mentor gets it better on. Okay, so I can quickly scan this and see that this is a similar type of approach. The code's slightly different, but it's basically semantically equivalent. This is the way that I was intentionally not writing it, because I don't like this. So this is sort of like how you would write this in a way that is better. I would argue that this code is definitively better than this code, in the sense that it's very hard for you to incorrectly order things with this type of structure. However, this code is less good than this code because of the nesting and complexity that it adds. But that is not the fault necessarily of this code. It's the fault of the way that this function was designed. This function should be designed. Okay. So I guess maybe somebody just rebooted. What, Taylor, do you remember what? By the way, this is just our own little thing. So anyway, what repo was I looking at? Does anybody recall? It was transaction. So, boy, I've lost my. Ooh, it might have been. Yeah, making a note of that. That's good. I don't think that it was Git. Was it Git? Okay, cool. Yeah, okay. I think T, you might be in a better spot. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think you're right. Yes, that's it. Okay, cool. We kind of lucked out. So, yeah, I don't totally love that. This is more of the same. This one is essentially this is sort of like the poor man's way of doing this, in that it is doing this nesting. Now, this is how I was originally going to write it, but I don't like this. And so instead, I'm just breaking it. I'm saying, you designed this the wrong way. I don't like the way that you shouldn't, this should not be necessary. This is poor design. All right, let me show you. All right, I'll fix it. Okay, I'll fix it. No, we don't even initialize this to null. Git. You guys are better than this. What are we doing? Come on, Git. All right. We've got a, sorry, I'm not trying to be judgy. My bar is very high for Git. And so, look, my view is almost all variables should be initialized upon their declaration. And so you've got that here. You've got that here. You don't have it here. You should probably just make this null. And then you don't have this here. You should probably just make this null. Yeah, get it together, Git. Come on. You run the world. We got to make this better. All right. So what I've done is I'm just going to, okay, look, I'll do the whole thing. This is going to be, okay. All right. So what's going to happen here? These object guards are going to come into existence, and they're going to know that this is the thing that they're guarding, the transaction and the SB. And then this is going to be templatized on this type, and then this is going to be templatized on this type. So you're going to do some sort of specialization on its deallocation. So I don't want to write all that code, but it's going to look something like, and it's going to do something here. So this is the template generalized version. And this is going to call that. And then you're going to do the same thing. What do we do here? We have to... Let's just call this stir buff. All right. So this is the generalized version, and now I've specialized it for ref transaction, pointer. That's important. This is for pointers, and it's going to free this. And the non-pointer version, I haven't defined on purpose because this only works with pointers and transactions. As we saw, these ref transactions, we want them to be this. Thus the whole freeing part of it. Then this is going to be this stir buff object. And we see that it's stir buff over here. And then we're going to do this release. Oh, this is... Yeah, my bad. Yeah, it didn't quite make sense. Now it makes more sense. So this is a stir buff pointer as well. Even though stir buff itself is not a pointer, it is a pointer as soon as you do this. This is sending the address of SB, which makes it a pointer, which means it's going to invoke this thing here. Okay, now, how does the object, the guarded object thing work? Okay. I have to move my head to the side so I can... These buttons in the middle are... I'm still trying to learn. Thinking... there's a complicated type matching that I have to do here that I'm going to get slightly wrong. Yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm pattern matching all of the pointers in my head on the object guard type, as well as the templates, as well as the way that it's going to interface with the functions that I'm calling, and what that's going to look like in the implementation of the class. So what's happening here is I'm trying to think about the T. The T is going to be a ref transaction star here. And the reason why I sort of don't like that is I want to make this a pointer. I want this to be a pointer because then I want this thing to point to the thing. And the reason for that is I'm worried about cases when it's not a pointer, it's actual instance. That if I don't... So in the case where you pass it a pointer, this ref transaction pointer here, right, this is T. So T will be a ref transaction pointer. So in this case, it works. The problem is when you don't pass it a pointer type, you just pass it something, then it will do a full copy here. And the copy part is not going to work because it's going to call the free operation on an object that's copied and just free it for the copied instance. It needs to free it for the thing that is pointing essentially to the same address space as the thing that's constructed. So it does. They all do free on the same thing. Hopefully this makes a little bit of sense. So how to do this? Okay, so okay. Um, you can do something, I think, in C++ like this. I think what this should do is, if this is not a pointer, we get out of here. We bail. We exit. Because you have to use this with only pointer types. So if you pass us an actual object, we're going to throw an exception on you. So that's what this is going to do. This syntax is not exactly right, but I could massage it to make it work. I just don't feel like bringing up Visual Studio and writing it and fixing all the things. But here's the intuition, right? This then allows us to use the actual T type directly without making it a T pointer, because we know it's a pointer. And so now I can ensure that this T member is going to point to the memory that this guy is pointing to. And that's what I want. I don't want to copy. We're all working on the same piece of memory. So now I can do T, this is whatever the T is that comes in. And this object guards constructor only works with a single parameter. There is no there is no zero parameter constructor. And I'm doing that on purpose because I don't want object guards floating around. The point of the object guard is, upon construction of it, you have to pass it a thing to guard. You must. Because the whole point is that it's going to guard this object on initialization. And when this function ends, then it's going to invoke its destructor. And in the destructor, it's going to ensure that the thing that it was guarding is released in this thing, right? And in this code. Therefore, based on this design, I'm basically saying you can't create it without this. You could, but I'm being a little rigid with my design, just so people don't break it, that they don't get it wrong. All right. So now we have this code. Now, what's so great about this is now I can do this. I can actually do this, because when I return 1 compared to this original code, which was like not as good. And by the way, I think I just realized what. Yeah, I think I sort of just realized why they didn't do this. Because I think this is just classic C. And classic C, I believe, doesn't have objects. But I guess maybe this is a compelling reason on why you should use C++. Is that in C++, I don't like what part of what makes this code not great is you have to invoke these free operations to make sure that you release the memory and like the lock state potentially that you have on this transaction and this string buffer. This has to be called at the end. So there's a couple ways to deal with this. You could have gotos. So you go to this, and gotos generally not super great. Wouldn't do that. Or you can do it the way that I'm solving it, which is you're building a guard object. I mean, or you can leave it in this way, but this is just, right? Like if you leave it in this way, then the answer that you get is, in order to really make this code break out the serial orderness of this and do this in the proper stepwise fashion, you kind of are restricted to doing something like this, right? It's if, else, if, else. It's this embedded nesting because you're staging it. It's like, this is stage one. Stage one doesn't fail. If stage one fails, you're going to get out of this. Okay, stage one is passed. Okay, now we can go into stage two. Stage two passes. Okay, now we can go to stage three, right? And so they're all embedded within each other. I think that is too much nesting. There's too much you have to hold into your head, and it's just, no. Just use better design patterns. So have a guard object that's going to take care of all the cleanup for you. And we basically just coded the whole structure of it here. Like, there's more work to do, but basically that's what an object guard is, or a guard object, whatever we call this. And then when you know that those free things are going to happen, you don't have to add them, and then you can exit wherever you want, right? This is the thing, is they can't exit because they need to do these every time. That's the only reason why you can't do just return here. They need to do this, and they don't want to copy paste that. They don't want to copy paste it here and then here. I mean, that's good. It's good on them for not doing that. But this is, I think, better, because now you can exit in a very elegant way. And the beauty of exiting here is it elides away the nesting. So I'm doing the same thing that this code is doing, if not transaction. The only difference is I can do the cleanup once that guard object gets destroyed, and it will happen once I return, because it'll invoke the destructor, and then it'll do those two release operations. These ones, because I just coded them, right? I gotta do that, because that's that. And then it's gonna do that, which is that. And it's gonna do that on every return. Even on this exit here, it's gonna do it. Which is what you want, right? Because it's doing it every time. So if you don't have that, then once you get past this check, then you have to go in again. You have to check this, and then you are making sure that this is okay. If this is not okay, then you have another error. And notice that each one of these things is like walking, like, so this if is going to make sure that it jumps to the end of this, that jumps to the end of this, jumps to the end of this. If you accidentally have lingering stuff after this, like after this else, or after this else, which you absolutely can, you probably just sent things going the wrong way, in a big way. And you can see too, like, look at the size of the code. Like this is just the initialization code, which they don't have over here, right? This code here is doing like these 5 lines of code here. And I realized that, like, this call here, this is 4 lines. So it's not really as big as it appears, but you can see what happens when you get rid of the nesting is it just makes the code so much easier to reason about. And you can even see what the phases are. This is phase 1. This is phase 2. And then this is phase 3. Cool. All because you just used a guard object and you understand, like, good software design. Okay, I think it's getting the wrong. Oh, a lock guard. A lock guard is an example. So in this lock guard, see if we can find. Yeah. So here, So this is a lock guard. This is my general object guard, right? So I'm templatizing this. Oops, sorry. It's here. Yeah. Okay. So now they have this guard for a lock, and they're basically doing a very similar thing. Is that on construction, it will lock the lock, and then on destruction, it will unlock it. And then the beauty of that is you do the lock guard, and then you go to do something, and no matter what happens, you always release the lock. You just drop the lock. So you don't create a deadlock. Super cool. You do the same thing for like freeing resources. It just ensures that the resources will get cleaned up and released at the end of the scope in which the lock guard was created. Super powerful concept, very helpful in large-scale software design, and another reason why objects that are scoped, that have lifetimes, are your friends. Okay, I feel like that maybe is enough for today. Maybe what I'll do, I'll take a short little bio break here, and then we'll come back and we'll just chat about some of these movies real quick. And then maybe what I'll do is I'll upload 2 VODs for this. I'll upload the first, which is just about coding, and then I'll upload a second, which is more just us kind of playing around and earning our much deserved break after 2 hours of like studying, essentially. Cool, let's do that. I'm going to do bio break, but before I do, the last piece about the AI is, so I would use the stochastic AIs for this kind of thing, and then I would use deterministic AIs for this kind of thing. And in all these cases, in none of these cases, am I actually using the AI to sort of write the core code, but it is helping me make the code better, right? Like that's a key thing.